You know, we spend a lot of time on these deep dives looking at the really cutting-edge stuff. CRISPR, AI, synthetic biology. But sometimes the most sophisticated tech isn't something we invented in a lab. It's something biology has been refining for about 200 million years.
That's a fair point. Nature has a pretty significant head start on us in the R&D department.
Exactly. And today we're looking at something that I think a lot of people just write off as either, an old wives' tale or, well, frankly, gross. We're talking about bovine colostrum. And before you tune out thinking this is just about bodybuilding shakes or some niche trend, the research we're diving into is honestly startling. We're talking about liquid gold.
It really is like a programming language. That's probably the best way to think about it. It's not food. It's information. It's code.
And that's the distinction I want to start with, because historically this stuff was huge. I mean, in Ayurvedic medicine, it's been used for thousands of years.
For both spiritual and physical healing.
Yeah.
And even in the West, before we had penicillin and went all in on antibiotics, doctors would prescribe colostrum to fight infections.
He really did.
Well, absolutely, it was a staple. But then, the 20th century happened, we got really good at making drugs in a lab, and we sort of forgot that nature had already solved a lot of these problems for us.
So science is circling back.
It is. With antibiotic resistance and this massive focus on gut health, it's coming back into the spotlight.
Okay, so let's set the baseline. When we say colostrum, we are not just talking about milk. I mean, if I look at a glass of regular milk and a glass of this,
Okay.
Are they even the same thing?
Visually, no.
Oh.
And chemically, not even close.
Yeah.
If you poured them side by side, the first thing you notice is just the texture and color.
Okay.
Mature milk, the stuff you put in your coffee, it's mostly water. Its job is hydration and calories. Fat, lactose, protein for growth. It's fuel.
Right, just fuel.
But colostrum, which is only produced in that first 24, maybe 48 hours after birth, is thick. It's yellow, sticky. It's about 24.7% total solids.
Whoa. Which is incredibly dense compared to regular milk.
Exactly. It's a delivery vehicle. The protein concentration is 5 times higher. But it's not just more protein for the sake of calories. It has these specialized proteins designed to modulate systemic physiology.
Modulate systemic physiology. That's a heavy phrase. What does that mean? It's like it's flipping switches in the body.
That's the perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
It's flipping switches. You have to understand the biology of a cow to get why it exists. Humans are lucky. Our babies get immunity through the placenta.
In the womb.
Right. Calves get zero.
Zero. So a calf is born completely defenseless.
Completely. A calf is born with no immune system to speak of. If it doesn't get that colostrum within the first 24 hours, it suffers from what's called failure of passive transfer.
I saw that term, and that's bad.
It's lethal. Their mortality rate skyrockets. Nature has a very strict deadline because of a phenomenon called gut closure, where the calf's intestinal wall literally stops letting these big protein molecules through after about a day.
So it's a frantic biological race against the clock.
It's a high-potency data dump of immunity before the doors slam shut.
Right.
And the star of that data dump is immunoglobulin G, or IgG.
Okay, IgG. I see that on all the supplement labels. These are antibodies, right?
Okay, the main type of antibody in your blood. In regular milk, you might find tiny amounts, maybe half a gram per liter.
And in colostrum.
The concentration is up to 100 times higher.
100 times. That's significant.
It has to be. It's trying to take the calf's blood serum, IgG, from 0 to over 10 milligrams per deciliter, like instantly. And it's not just IgG. You also got IgA for mucous membranes, IgM, which is the first responder to bacteria.
Yeah.
It's a full-spectrum defense shield.
Okay, but this is where I get skeptical, and I think any rational listener should pause here too. We're talking about eating these proteins. Basic biology says the human stomach is an acid bath. It destroys proteins.
It does. That's its job.
So if I eat a steak, it gets broken down into amino acids. Why doesn't that just happen here? Why don't these fancy antibodies just get turned into expensive fuel?
That is the million-dollar question. And if colostrum were just normal food, you'd be absolutely right. It would be useless. But nature, it engineered a workaround. It's actually brilliant.
A workaround, like a Trojan horse.
More like a bodyguard. Colostrum has extremely high levels of something called trypsin inhibitors. Trypsin is a key enzyme your pancreas makes to chop up proteins.
Right.
These inhibitors essentially handcuff the enzyme. They neutralize the digestion process just enough to let those immune factors pass through the stomach unharmed.
So it temporarily disables part of your digestion.
In a very targeted way, yes. But there's a second layer of protection that I find even more fascinating. It involves casein.
Casein, that's the slow digesting protein, right?
Right. But in colostrum, it acts as a competitive substrate. Think of it as a decoy.
A decoy. Okay, paint me a picture.
Okay, imagine your VIP, that's your delicate growth factor or antibody,
Right.
trying to get through a crowd of paparazzi. Those are the digestive enzymes.
Okay, I'm with you.
The casein is like the bodyguard that steps out front and yells, "Hey, look at me." All the enzymes swarm the casein and start breaking it down. And while they're busy with that, the VIP slips through the back door into the small intestine, where it can actually do its job.
That is incredibly clever. So it sacrifices the casein to save the bioactive components.
Evolution doesn't like to waste energy. If the mother's body is going to create something as valuable as IGF-1 or IgG, it's going to make sure it arrives at its destination.
Okay, so the package arrives, it gets past the acid bath. Now what? This is where we get into sports science, because every athlete I know is suddenly talking about gut health, and specifically leaky gut.
Oh, it's a huge topic in performance medicine right now.
But help me connect the dots. Why would an elite athlete, the picture of health, have a leaky gut? I thought that was something that happened from, eating junk food for 20 years.
You would think so. But intense exercise is a stressor. When you're working out hard, even for just 10 minutes, your body has to prioritize. It shunts blood away from your gut and sends it to your muscles, your heart, your lungs.
Right, the whole fight or flight response? You don't need to be digesting a sandwich while you're running from a lion?
Precisely. But that lack of blood flow causes intestinal ischemia. The gut lining gets damaged, it becomes permeable. The tight junctions, think of them like the grout between tiles, they start to crack open.
And that's the leak.
That's the leak. And it's not just water, it's toxins, undigested food, bacteria, all leaking into your bloodstream. That causes systemic inflammation, which just kills your recovery.
Okay, so how do we know colostrum fixes this? I saw a mention of a lactulose-rhamnose ratio in the research. That sounds like jargon.
It does, but it's a clever test.
Uh-huh.
Lactulose and rhamnose are two sugars. Rhamnose is a tiny molecule. Lactulose is a big one. You drink a solution with both.
Okay.
In a healthy gut, the tiny rhamnose can get through, but the large lactulose should be blocked. It's too big to fit through the gaps.
So if you find the big sugar in your blood...
You got a hole in the net, you have a leaky gut, and the meta-analyses show that colostrum supplementation significantly reduces that ratio. It tightens the net. It also reduces zonulin, which is the protein that tells the gut wall to open up in the first place.
So it physically seals the barrier? But does that actually translate to performance? I mean, sealing my gut is great, but does it make me faster?
The data suggests yes, especially with power and recovery. There was one study on rugby players, and rugby is just a brutal sport for inflammation.
It's basically a car crash every 5 minutes.
Exactly. They gave these players 38 grams of colostrum a day for 8 weeks and compared them to a group taking soy protein. The colostrum group improved their vertical jump height by 1 centimeter.
Okay, devil's advocate.
Yeah.
1 centimeter. That sounds like it could be a rounding error. Is that actually meaningful?
For you or me, probably not. But in elite sports, where margins are razor thin, a 1 centimeter increase in vertical jump is a legitimate measure of increased lower body power. It means their whole system is firing more efficiently, likely because it's not bogged down by inflammation. We saw similar things in soccer players, too.
What about for endurance athletes?
Same trend. 12 weeks of supplementation improved VO2 at the ventilatory threshold. Basically, they could work harder for longer before hitting that wall where you're just gasping for air.
That makes sense. If your body isn't wasting energy fighting fires in your gut, it has more to spend on actual performance.
That's the idea.
And the immune side, because every hard training athlete knows about the marathon flu. You train hard, your immune system tanks.
It does. The data on incidence, meaning does it stop you from catching a cold, is a bit mixed. Some studies say yes, some say no, but the data on duration is much clearer.
Okay.
If you're taking colostrum and you do get an upper respiratory tract infection, you're generally sick for fewer days. The symptoms are milder, so it's not a magic shield, but it helps you bounce back faster.
Which brings us to the part of the research that honestly blew me away. We've covered the gut, the muscles, but there's a component in here that affects the brain, and specifically Alzheimer's.
This is the frontier. This is where it gets really exciting. We're talking about a specific complex called colostrin, or proline-rich polypeptides, PRPs.
And what is colostrum doing?
It appears to directly address the hallmark of Alzheimer's, which is beta-amyloid plaque, these sticky clumps of protein that build up in the brain and just disrupt everything.
Right.
Colostrum seems to not only prevent these plaques from forming, but it might actually help break up ones that are already there.
That is a massive claim. We have very few drugs that can do that. Is this just in a petri dish?
No, this was a clinical trial on patients with mild to moderate Alzheimer's. After taking it, 8 out of the 15 patients showed improvement and the other 7 stabilized.
And the placebo group?
0 improvement. They continued their expected decline.
That is wow. Okay. But before everyone runs out to buy a truckload of this stuff, there is a really important note in the research about something called tachyphylaxis.
Yes, this is absolutely crucial. If you ignore this part, you're just wasting your time and money.
Walk us through it. What is tachyphylaxis?
It just means your body builds a tolerance. Think of it like caffeine. You drink 5 cups of coffee every day. Eventually, you stop feeling it. Your receptors downregulate. The same thing happens with colostrum. Take it every single day without a break, and the body just stops responding.
So more is not better.
Definitely not. In the clinical trials, the benefits actually disappeared when patients took it continuously. The magic only happened when they cycled it.
So what's the protocol?
The best results came from taking it every other day or doing a cycle like 3 weeks on, followed by a 2-week break.
That is such a vital takeaway. It's totally counterintuitive. We're all trained to take our supplements every single day. But here, the off days are just as important as the on days.
Exactly. You have to let the receptors rest so they can listen to the signal again.
Okay, we need to talk about the cow in the room. Safety, quality. This isn't a clean synthesized powder. It's a biological product. It can be messy.
It's the Wild West out there, for sure.
Yeah.
The FDA doesn't strictly regulate the potency. They check for safety. But they don't verify that the tub you bought actually has the IgG levels it claims on the label.
And I saw that study that was pretty damning. Something like 44% of samples tested had low IgG.
Yes, good. Colostrum is defined as having at least 50 milligrams per milliliter of IgG. Nearly half the market fails to meet that. But honestly, the bigger worry for me is bacterial contamination.
Right, because it's milk. It can spoil.
It's a raw biological fluid. And here's the paradox. To make it safe, you have to pasteurize it. But if you use standard high-heat pasteurization, you cook the proteins. You destroy the antibodies and growth factors you're paying for.
So you kill the bad stuff, but you also destroy the good stuff.
Precisely. So reputable manufacturers have to use these careful, low-heat, slow pasteurization methods. But if they don't do it perfectly, well, one study found that 81% of samples exceeded the industry guidelines for bacterial counts.
81%? That's terrifying.
It just highlights that you can't bargain hunt for these kinds of products. You have to look for brands that show you third-party testing for both IgG content and for microbial safety.
What about the cancer risk? We got questions about this. If this stuff is full of IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor, and cancer's uncontrolled growth, aren't we just throwing gasoline on a fire?
It's a valid theoretical concern, and it's been debated for years, especially with prostate and breast cancer, but we have to look at what actually happens in the body. When a healthy adult takes a standard dose, say 10 to 20 grams, does it actually spike the level of IGF-1 in their blood?
And the answer is?
The current evidence says no. The IGF-1 seems to act locally in the gut repairing that lining we talked about, rather than flooding the whole system. The blood levels don't rise significantly compared to placebo.
So for most healthy adults, it seems fine.
It appears to be. But obviously, if you have an active hormone-sensitive cancer, you talk to your oncologist. That's a given.
Standard advice. And allergies.
Do you have a true cow's milk protein allergy, like you carry an EpiPen for casein, or we do not touch this stuff, it will trigger a reaction?
But what about lactose intolerance?
That's different. Lactose is a sugar. Colostrum has much less than regular milk, about 2.5% versus almost 5%. So a lot of people with mild lactose issues tolerate it just fine. But it's not lactose-free.
Got it. Okay, so to synthesize all this, we have a substance that's kind of a bridge between food and pharmacology. It can seal the gut for athletes, it has this amazing decoy system to survive digestion, and it has this wild potential for brain health, but only if you cycle it.
That's a perfect summary. It's a biological starter kit that seems to have these reboot capabilities for adults, as long as you source it carefully.
I want to leave everyone with a thought today. We spend so much time and money trying to hack our biology with new inventions, but here we have a fluid that nature designed specifically to transfer a survival code from one being to another. It just makes me wonder, if this code was hiding in milk all this time, what other biological instructions are hidden in our food that we just haven't learned how to read yet?
That's the question that keeps people in my field up at night. There is so much more to discover.
Thanks for diving in with us. Check your labels, cycle your doses, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.